Alright, I got my own 2003 GMC 2500 HD pick-em-up truck. So the problem I'm having is when this sat for probably a couple of weeks. I ended up getting some mice and stuff in it. I think they were in it before, but you know, they got in here and they kind of made a mess of the wiring. Some of these wires are chewed up. Some are corroded. But I mean, there's some liquid electrical tape all in here too, so I don't believe this is something that happened, because I mean, I didn't put that on there, so I don't believe that's something that happened to begin with. Well, not that I don't believe it's something that happened to begin with, I think it's had some of this damage since I got it, because I haven't had it too long. So I'll show you what it's doing. So what's happening is, when I turn the key, it just started. I'm not even touching the key. So that's in run. So I mean, if you turn the key all the way, it'll start and run. I mean, it won't right now because I got some things disconnected, which is strange all in itself. So I know this is the wiring to the ignition switch. The two red wires are the feeds, ignition A and ignition B, I believe. This white one, this orange one, the pink one, and the brown one that's over here, I think those are powers out that go out to things. This yellow one here is the ignition start wire. So I initially was thinking that it was the switch, but I mean, I didn't obviously want to purchase a switch if it wasn't a switch, because it's about 40 bucks. Turns out I do not believe it's the switch anymore. So I checked right here, and I had, I think, 2 to 4 volts. I think it was around 3 volts on this wire, which this is the start wire. So that's one of the reasons I thought that the problem was a switch, because it was kind of shorting out, letting voltage through. So I unplugged this and I tried to get this wire out, but I couldn't get it out of this plug, because I wanted to see where the voltage was coming from. Was it coming from the fuse box, or was it coming through the switch? But ultimately I couldn't get it out of that one without kind of damaging it, so I left it in there. And what I did was I went to fuse panel. So now there were mice in this fuse panel urinating all over the place, which is awesome if you ask me. They're such wonderful creatures. So I came over here, what was it? It was A3. This wire right here is that wire, the yellow wire that comes out of the ignition. So, which is another odd part about it wanting to start on its own, because the wire that actually tells it to start from the key is not plugged in. So when I did that, I didn't get any voltage on there. I think there was like 0.3 volts or something on that wire after I unplugged that. So that told me that my issue was in my fuse panel here. So if I unplug the starter relay, it doesn't start. So I'm pretty confident that my issue is on this side. I'm pretty sure it's the fuse box, but I'm just telling you how I got to my conclusion. So let's see, I'll have to try to set you up over here a little bit. Let's go like this. That's not metal. That's metal. Alright, so I'll put this over here. Like that. What happened here? So we'll put you right there. You can kind of see it. So now the way that this system works, let me look at a wiring diagram so I'm not telling you false information. So now, the way this works, if you can see, you got the start switch, that's the yellow wire. So it comes from the start over here, it goes through a connector in the firewall, then it goes to the crank fuse, which is a 10 amp fuse. So it goes out of the crank fuse to the PCM. It tells the PCM you turn the key. So after it goes to the PCM, no, well, I mean, you've got your neutral safety switch that comes from the power, ignition fuse E. I don't even know if you can read this stuff, but anyway, you can follow the lines. So it comes from ignition fuse E, goes through another connector, it goes to the power neutral safety switch, and then power comes around town over here to the coil side of the starter relay, which is what I just unplugged. So back over here, you've got the 10 amp fuse, comes out, the 10 amp crank fuse comes out, goes into the PCM. Now the PCM, when you tell it it's starting, it grounds that side of the coil for the relay, which closes your relay switch. So now you get power from your battery, comes over here to the starter relay, and then comes out of the starter relay to the solenoid of the starter. So what I did was I checked voltage on this crank fuse without the key turned, and I had some voltage on there. Now I don't have the full 12 volts. If I turn the key all the way, I do get the 12 volts, but I'm kind of thinking that the computer is recognizing that there is some voltage there and it's trying to start, is what the problem is. The other times it didn't actually start, but it came pretty close. It would just kind of kick like it was kicking, but this time it actually started. So now I have the crank fuse out, and I have, let me turn this around. Right, I gotta turn the key on. So we've got the crank fuse out, and we have 3.5 volts on one side of the fuse, and we have 2.7570, 2.61. Well, you can see it. So that's the voltage on the other side of the fuse. So the irony is we have voltage on both sides of the fuse with no fuse in it. So now when I checked for this yellow wire, I did a continuity test from the wire inside the cab at the ignition switch, and I came out here to the back side of this fuse, and I had continuity there. But ironically, I had partial continuity to the circuits that are next to it. So when I checked the ones around it, I was also getting the meter was beeping. I mean, I didn't have good continuity. I think I had like 1.2 kilo ohms or something like that of resistance, but it was pretty close. So I think what's happening, the fuse box is shorting out inside, and the power is radiating over to that crank fuse. And once it's going into that crank fuse, it's kind of going over to the starter relay, and it's trying to start the vehicle. So it's kind of sort of bypassing it. So that's the reason that I wanted to get this wire off, was to make sure that because I didn't know where the power was coming from. I don't know if it was coming from the fuse box back or from there forward. So that's why, like I said, that's why I wanted to disconnect that fuse. So we'll get you some power here, and that's what we got. So we actually still got voltage on there. That's weird. I didn't have that last night.
I got you another subscriber.
Alright, so continuing on. So I'm getting kind of weird readings here. I don't know if it's something to do with my meter now or what the deal is, but I just checked the voltage in the cab at this same wire and I didn't have voltage there, but now I have voltage here. So I got something weird going on. But anyway, so if I come in here, let me take this and we will check inside here. Right there, this is the voltage that I'm getting off of the terminal that's inside there on the crank circuit. So that's coming out of the fuse box. Essentially, it shouldn't have anything coming out of there because it's not. That goes to the, well, that I believe comes out and goes to the PCM. So it's just kind of a little bit strange. So one of the things that kind of led me out this way was the fact that if I put a test light on the starter wire here, the test light doesn't light up, but it doesn't try to start either. So it grounds out the voltage that's there and it doesn't try to start. When I take the test light off, it tries to start. So I mean, initially I was leaning towards a ground issue also, because if there's a ground missing, it might be trying to find its way through something, and this is just the path that it's taking, and that's why I'm getting these higher values that are kind of a little erratic. So I was going to start checking the wiring at the PCM. My next step, because like I said, I don't know where this power is really coming from, I'm going to find the wire on here that goes to the PCM. I mean, it kind of stinks. I got a lot of torn up wires to begin with, so they might be something someplace that's rubbing that I haven't seen yet. So I'm trying to narrow down where my problem is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, we'll look at the wiring diagram. We will find the wire that comes out of the fuse box, which is, it looks like F3 on connector C2 is the purple wire, and that's the crank wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find this wire. We got F3, 1, 2, 3, A, B, oh, it goes this way. So 1, 2, 3, F3. So this one right here, this purple wire here. So I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to take that purple wire out. That's the wire that goes to the PCM and tells the PCM that I turned the key. Let's see what we got on that. We have 1.29 volts on that. Okay. So if I unplug that and it doesn't try to start, then I know that my problem is on this side of the PCM. So the wire that comes out and goes to the starter relay, it looks like it's D12, right? And that is a yellow and black wire. Dark green, dark green. Yeah, it looks like a yellow and black wire. It's A, B, C, D. 12 is at the bottom, yep. So it's a yellow and black wire down there. So that's where I'm going to go first. First, I'm going to pull this purple wire out and see if it still does it, because that's the one that's coming from the fuse panel to the PCM. So if it keeps telling if it still tries to start like that, then I know it's the PCM. Or I don't know, but that's what I'm going to lead towards then, that it's the PCM, because now I've taken all the signals away from the PCM that I'm trying to start. So if it still tries to start, then the PCM's trying to start it. If it doesn't try to start, I could plug it back in, and then I don't know, I guess that wouldn't make a difference really, because it's coming from the powertrain control module. Let's see, if it does try to start, then I guess I could plug that one back in and I can take out this C1, the starter enable relay control. And then if it still tries to start, then I don't know. We'll start with the purple one first, because yeah, that'll kind of isolate it. So these are 7mm. So yeah. I think I got some funky stuff going on with this fuse panel all over the place, just because, I mean, I got power here, I got power going there, I got power in places that are the wrong places, so you watch, I'm probably going to have a bad ground somewhere. I'm chasing all these other wires instead of just looking for the grounds like it should be. It's just, yeah, it just seems weird. Because, I mean, that wire shouldn't have power on it until I turn the key. I mean, the power comes from the key, or from the ignition switch, so it doesn't really make sense that there's power on there. I mean, the only thing that could have been it, I mean, when I checked it here at the end here, I didn't have power on it yesterday. So, I mean, I don't know why I was getting that weird reading today. But it was, so. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this out. Pull this big tab out. Fence, rake, comb, whatever you call it. Pull that out. And then we wear this purple one. So reach in there and flick the little doodad lock up. Pull this out. Put this comb back in so you don't rip any other wires out. And we'll plug this back in. Alright, so there's that. That's what we want to do, is not have them touching. Okay, let's turn it on and see what happens. Well, let's plug the relay in first. Obviously nothing's gonna happen without it plugged in. At least plugged in. Alright, we've got no start, which is, well, good. Let's see what we got for voltage. We got voltage on this. We have nothing, well, 0.2, 0.02. That's still basically nothing. I don't know why I keep getting that weird voltage on that. Yeah, 'cause it's like, it's kind of weird now. So, we could jump this to this. So go like that, and we should start. So basically I just bypassed the fuse block. So I took that 10 amp fuse out of the mix. So this comes in, goes in through the 10 amp fuse. Then it comes out of 10 amp fuse, it goes down this purple wire to the PCM. So now I've got no voltage on this. Well, I got the key off too, so turn the key on. Key is on. I have 0 volts on these 2 wires now. Let me come up here. I still have 3 volts on the crank fuse. So my problem, I believe, is inside this fuse box, and it's backfeeding voltage onto the start circuit. So that's how I came to that conclusion. I don't know if you can see any of the wirings, but I'll take you around town. So right there, that's just kind of how I tucked them together, so they're just touching. So when I go inside there and I turn the key to start, puts power here, which goes to here, to the PCM. I got a lot of cleaning up to do. You can see there's wires torn up there, and there's wires chewing up here, there's chewing up here. They're kind of chewing up all over the place, but so ultimately, I believe I need a new fuse box. I'm not 100% sure, because I don't have all the wiring diagrams that I could use to check the power and grounds on the computer or the PCM. I'll probably look for some. If I find them, then I'll continue on in the video. If not, then that's where I am now. I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's what my problem is. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know why I was getting voltage on this earlier. I'm not getting it now with the 2 touching. It's kind of a little strange. It still makes me kind of lean towards a ground issue, but I mean, it just, I don't know, just seems weird, because basically there's nothing. It goes, I said it goes from there's the fuse right there. Basically, it goes from that wire goes into the box, it goes through that fuse, and it comes out of the box. So if I'm getting power on that fuse, there's no reason to have power on that fuse. Yeah, I still got the door key on. So I mean, let's see if I can get that in there with you. That there. So that's the fuse. 3 volts on one side, 3.5 volts on the other side. So it's just not right. I don't believe the box is grounded. So I don't know. That's all I can think of, because, like I say, I mean, nothing is go through that fuse except for that, except for the crank. At least I didn't see anything on the wiring. I mean, I highly doubt that anything else is on the crank wire. But I don't know. Anyway, so that's where I'm in. That's where I'm at. So I'm gonna do a little bit more poking around, but more than likely I'm just gonna pick up a box from the salvage yard tomorrow, and we'll throw it in. It's just got some plugs, so shouldn't be too hard. And then we'll see if that's what the problem was. Alright, so here's another kind of odd thing. I checked the voltage on there. I don't remember if I did that in the early recording, but I had, I think, 3.2 volts on there. But I was actually able to take the test light, hook to the the positive stud. Now the test light only carries like, I think it's like 200 milliamps or something, but it'll actually crank the engine over just by touching the wire here. See? So it doesn't take a lot of voltage. You don't have to have a direct connection, or a lot of amperage anyway. I think it's just looking for a 12 volt signal, or possibly a signal. I don't even know exactly what the threshold is for the signal that it's looking for, but being that the situation that I'm having where it's only getting like 3 volts and it's still trying to start, because the only difference now between when it was trying to start by just turning the key on was that this wire was plugged into the fuse box. That's the only difference. And the only thing that I'm getting there is like 3.5 volts being fed to this. So I mean, I don't have a potentiometer or anything to do any type of investigating or testing to see exactly what the voltage threshold is, but I mean, like I said, at this point this wire goes to the ignition switch and this wire goes to the PCM, and I'm bypassing the fuse box, and that's it. I mean, essentially I could just put these wires together and just run it like it is, but I'm sure if I'm having problems with that circuit, I'm going to be having problems with other circuits. So yeah, so that's where it's at. Okay, so I picked up the other fuse box today. It's very similar, but there was a couple of extra fuses that were in there that aren't in this fuse box, because this is pretty much a stock GMC. I think what it came out of was an 05 Avalanche, so it was had the full 4 doors with the rear windows and everything, and this doesn't have that. It just has the extended cab with the kind of pop out windows in the back. So I think it'll work. I think the only ones that were different were the diesel ones, between the diesel and gas, and I don't know if it was different between the big block, the 8.1, and the smaller engines. But they seem to think it will fit, and I think it'll fit. I mean, I know it'll fit, but they seem to think it'll work, and I think it'll work too. But we'll see. It's pretty quick to change it. I had to take all the relays out of this and put it in the other one, because it looked like it was pillaged for relays. This little nut here is a 10 millimeter. This one over here was a 13 millimeter, and this little one here is a 7. Because for some reason they can't all be the same size. I gotta check. This one doesn't have a plug in it that one does. Or a relay. Not a relay, but a fuse. I'm gonna tuck that around. We're not gonna touch anything and show it out. Hello. Hello. There's my daughter. So what is that? That is for VSES ECAS. The stability enhancement safety system or something. Yeah, so this one's got that fuse in it and that one doesn't. I don't really like leaving the fuses in there. So it's actually like this. Alright, so I guess it doesn't matter because there's just another blade down here that this wire is missing for that one, so I guess that won't matter. Leaving it in. Is that the right one? Yeah. Yeah, it should be fine. I'm sure leaving all the ones in here that aren't necessary will be fine. But I actually have seen a video on South Main Auto, I believe. He was doing a video on a random fuse that was in a fuse box that wasn't on the chart in the fuse block, and it didn't belong, but it was messing up everything. It was putting power where power didn't belong. I think it was draining the batteries. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know that that fuse was causing some major issues with that vehicle. So that's one of the reasons I pulled out all the ones that I don't think I'll need. Because I mean, normally I would have just left them in, but after seeing that, I feel I should probably taken them out. So I did. But there's some things that this box doesn't have. Like this box isn't pinned in some of the spots that this one's pinned in. For things like RH HID. I don't know what that is. Because I don't know what that is. Yeah, I'd have assumed the HID is high intensity discharge lights, but I don't think I have that. Or I don't think that had that, but I don't know. So these are all 7mm down here. I took a picture of this before I started, just so I know where everything goes, or where it is now, to put it back later. I like to take pictures of things that I used to have a much better memory than I do now. I mean, I'm not that old, but I've noticed that I have a lot of things to think about and a lot going on, and it's harder and harder to remember what I'm doing. More particularly where things go, I guess. But I mean, I haven't had an issue yet where I've had missing pieces or extra parts that I didn't know where they went. But sometimes I'll forget to put parts in as I'm going and have to go back. But I'm sure that's a lot of people. So I'm probably going to clean these terminals because they're all covered in mouse urine. There's like these little clips in there holding on. The screws basically pull the plugs out as you're pulling them. I just kind of try to keep them straight. They don't jam in there. As you loosen up the screw, it basically unplugs it. It's just an extra little bit. It's to fight me. There. So, yeah, let me go get some terminal cleaner for this one in particular, because it's kind of messy. So, some QD electronic cleaner. Let's spray down some of this. Alright, touching it. Paper towel. What is that one? That one's actually a start one that's got all mess on it. Some of these ones look all chewed up. This guy in the middle is a little chewed up. This guy over here ain't bad. Well, this one did have some damage, but it's liquid taped up. I guess the most of my damage is all down in the lower ones. Tiniest little can. It's like those little cans of soda that you get, and they're like 3 ounces. What's this? This is 4.5. Yes, they look alright. A couple of them that were extra peepee. Where'd my lid go? There it is. For that fold. Okay. So now we just gotta plug these big ones. Alright, so they got like a, well, I'll show you. Oh, screwdriver. A little pick. So I'm just trying to push the little tab up. So you get that little flat tab right there. I don't know if you can see. And you see? Anyway, little flat tab. Just gotta obviously push the tab down. But sometimes like these you can't get the clearance. It's like you push them down and they're still not down enough, and you gotta give a little pry. Alright, so we got this, goes like that. Black, gray, green, white. Alright, so that's that, I believe. Right? White, green, gray, black. Alrighty, here we go. So, get extra hands now. Yep, but don't put them on the connectors. Let's see. So, this white one goes here, green one there, gray one there, and the black one here. No.
Up here?
Yep.
They just click in or something?
Yeah, they click in, but you gotta push it till it clicks. There you go. Actually, they kind of look like they're keyed. They got little key notches in there, like they only go into one. Sometimes I pull the wire a little bit, make sure they're going straight. So now, this red one I believe goes in down here. So you're gonna kind of feed it in there, and then you're gonna tighten it up with the ratchet. Give it a little push, and then just okay. Alright, so tighten it up.
Did you just turn it?
Huh?
Sorry.
What? Is it tight?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want to go super tight, but that should be good. Here you go. Put the green one in. Come on, you're never gonna make money like that. I'm sorry, I edited that out. And when you're dealing with power and stuff, you have to keep in mind if you're like on a nut or on one of these like power ones, if you touch the handle to something metal, it will spark because it's basically like shorting it out. So you gotta keep that in mind when you're doing that type of stuff. I'm not saying that turning that nut is gonna do it. I'm just saying that in general, if you're like these nuts up here where the power wire actually goes to, those ones would. That one's a little tricky. You gotta kind of get that one on straight. You can't go.
Is this just gonna make it have to go down far? Should I do this one first? Or this one if you
No, I mean, you can just kind of just pull them up. I mean, you got all this play in the wire. I mean, obviously you don't want to rip the wire off, but the wire should be able to handle a little tug like that. If it can't, then there's something wrong with the wire. I mean, well, yeah, I'm not pulling it super hard. So when you get this going in, see how it's kind of going a little crooked? You want to make sure it goes in straight.
How tight do you want me to go?
Hmm?
I said, how tight do you want me to go?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, you know. That's good. You don't want to go super tight, but it's got to go in all the way. This video is brought to you in part by Crappy Tools. Is that in all the way? So, you might have to go a little bit to get it started. I'm trying to. Well, is it going smooth?
No.
So you don't want to get it cross-threading, and then because then it'll be a big problem. Sometimes you just gotta push it a little bit. Alright, so there's that. You need this one. This one. That going. That goes there. That goes there. Now that one, don't touch anything metal.
With the handle or like?
Yeah, with the handle or any part of the socket or ratchet. And you can touch that tab obviously because that's all connected, but if you touch something metal with that, it will arc.
Not these.
Because generally you're supposed to unhook the battery, but I like to live dangerously.
No.
Toy. Got this guy. You need a different socket for that. You need a 10 for that one and a 13 for this one. That one's another power wire.
Is inside? Yep. Purchase.
You're done? Yeah, let me check your work. You don't want like power wires coming loose because then they make a bad connection and then they get hot and then they melt the connectors and cause all kinds of other issues. You don't, obviously this is all in like plastic and stuff, you don't really get it super tight, but you don't want it loose either. Alright, so let's see if it fixed the problem. Oh, it ain't doing it. It seems to have done the trick because we ain't got no more starting. Everything's plugged back in. I just gotta fix all these chewed up wires down here too. And then it'll be all good. So, if you get too much mouse urine in your fuse box, it's gonna cause you all kinds of trouble. So, gotta figure out a way to keep them out of there. If you look at the box, here's the box. You can see all the remnants, let's say, of the mice. It's all down here. It actually went through the box. It was so much. So, yeah. Well, at least I got a bunch of extra fuses. They might smell a little funny, but... So, there you go. And that's how you change your GM fuse panel. Fuse box. So I just got to put the cover back on. It just pops on, and then put the 4 bolts for this bracket back on over here, because I had to take that off to get the cover out. And then we're all done. So hope this helps somebody. Thanks for watching, and thanks for my guest appearance of my daughter. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello. Well, thanks for watching.